back to Building a Fighter. My name is Dr. Austin Shane, sports chiropractor in Scottsdale, Arizona. With me, as always, badass strength coach in Denver, Colorado, Alex Friedman. Today, we're going to talk about why, as a combat athlete, you have to be more than just an athlete. You have to bring something else to the table in order to maximize your earning potential and get as much as you can out of the sport that you're investing in. Because at the end of the day, doing a sport and trying to be a professional in something, or even a high level college with NIL deals, that is an investment in and of itself. You're investing into something for yourself. Make sure you're getting a return on that investment.
Yeah, one thing that's interesting, I think, in the fight game is that a lot of other professional athletes are professional athletes, and then they have their businesses or their interests or their like entrepreneurial ventures that they start on the side,
Mhm.
right? When you're a fighter, everything you do is your entrepreneurial venture, right? You have your own business. You're not getting paid by a team, or you're not having a W-2. Like a lot of the times you're running your own business, right? As a
Mhm.
fighter. So I think that's unique to the sport. And then also the compensation, right? Very few fighters make enough money strictly from fighting,
Right.
right? So the financial incentives, the nature of how the organizational business structure is set up for fighters really makes this super important that you're not exclusively profiting off being an athlete. You have to find different avenues to profit off your name, your likeness, your reputation, your brand, um, and then your partnerships.
Well, it's a shitty thing because I feel like it's almost looked down upon if you do that in the combat sports realm.
Yeah.
Where like a good example is like a Patty Pimblett,
Mm-hmm.
where everybody made fun of him because he was so popular. Like, oh, he's going to be an easy fight. Everybody's calling him out. And do sometimes fighters talk more than they can back it up? Of course they do. That's called promoting yourself.
Yeah, that's the game.
But guess what? That same guy and all the investment, all the blood, sweat, and tears that he put into the sport that he's a professional at, he got $1 million barstool deal off of him talking shit. He was able to get a return on the investment that he's putting in, which at the end of the day,
Mm-hmm.
whether you're going for straps or you're going for cash, all of that is just a return. So it's something that can't be overstated or overlooked, that making sure that you're building yourself up and not faking it, but being as authentic to you as possible, but trying to put some effort into marketing your image and likeness is going to pay dividends down the road as a combat athlete, whether you're a college wrestler or an MMA fighter, because both of those things you can make a benefit off of your image and your likeness.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Like you can't knock the hustle, right?
Mm-hmm.
There is limited financial return from both of the athletic pursuits in MMA or wrestling, period. You know, if we compare to other sports, if we compare to what the organization gets versus what the athletes get, if we compare how you get paid, like have to show up and have to win is still insane.
Yeah,
Um,
that's wild.
so quite honestly, you can't knock the hustle because that's the situation that we've put these fighters in, right? We've created a scenario where if I'm gonna have to work this hard, spend this much time training, being a professional, getting my skill set down, and full time investing in being good at fighting, which is a lot of the times more investment than a lot of different sports.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then I'm going to get paid the least. I have to find other ways to get some return from it, right?
Right.
And whether that's sponsorship deals, whether that's starting your own business, whether that's profiting off of your name and or
Camp
a
series.
personality type, right? Like I'm in full support of all of it because at the end of the day, these athletes are trying to make their efforts all that it's worth.
Yep. And it's funny sometimes. So like my facility, it's fighters. I work with fighters and football players. There's a bunch of different athletes, but there's baseball and golf in there as well. And consistently, my
Yeah.
fighters will be like, "Why the fuck are they never sweating?" or something along those lines, right? And that long roundabout way of saying like, you guys picked fighting, right? You
Yeah.
picked to be in a combat sport. If you didn't want to work super hard, you should have started with baseball or golf. Right? You should have went after one of those, but you chose the route you're going down, which is a combat sport. What we're talking about with this promoting yourself or adding something behind your own brand, that's just a part of being in combat sports. That's a part of the job, unfortunately. And
Yeah,
it sucks. It's a shitty part that not a lot of people like in this job, but there's a reason why the people that talk get the most money. As long as you can back up what you're saying and you're spending hours in the gym, not just talking shit, and you can
yeah,
back it up in the UFC. Sean O'Malley's a great example. He's fighting for a fucking title. He's
yeah,
shown that
right.
he can back it up. I don't know how much money that dude makes, but I guarantee he's probably making 4 or 5x on his sponsorship deals than he is on his UFC contract,
100%. Yes,
just
yes,
because
yes,
he
yes.
set himself up to do that. But he can back it up because he also trains his fucking ass off the entire time so that he can continue to progress up the ranks.
Well, and I think there's a delineation to make there too, that I think there's kind of two skill sets at play, right? There's the entertainer, right? Whether you're talking shit, you're crazy on camera, you're Patty Pimbley, Sean O'Malley, whoever, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's one skill set, right? To be the public figure, to be, what Conor McGregor has mastered, right? The villain, the all eyes on me type of guy.
Yeah.
That's one skill set. I think the other skill set is the philanthropy or the entrepreneurial spirit. Because not only like does Sean O'Malley entertain, but he is constantly branching out in different ways to create revenue streams,
Mm-hmm.
right? Online streaming, personal brands, the Sugar Show. I think it's a podcast, right? Or is it a YouTube series?
I think it's both. Yeah.
Sure. You can branch off and create these businesses and be entrepreneurial with your image. And I think that's a skill set that takes developing too, right? There's that in the coaching world, 100%. There's
Mm-hmm.
that in a lot of business worlds. So I think that's another skill set to foster is that entrepreneurship and ways to not only like profit off your likeness, but to get creative and to benefit other funds or things that you're passionate, like even Dustin Poirier. A
Yeah.
lot of
I was
times,
going to bring him up. Yeah.
as bland as he is, right? He's got his hot sauce brand. He's got his charities that he fights for constantly. Like he's got some business savvy in him too, right?
Mm-hmm. Well,
So
I mean, it comes down to having the right people around you too. Some of this
yeah,
is also having the right manager pushing you in
yeah,
the right direction. Um, that it's all coming down to, can you use what you've worked so hard for to continue to make you a return or to continue to make you money down the road. Like Poirier is a good example of somebody that he didn't really do a whole bunch of self promotion right away. Like he was
mm,
just like I'm a shut up and I'm a fight kind of guy. He didn't give a shit. And then he had the fight with Connor, and he's been on this tear since he moved up to lightweight. But he's also done a really good job of letting people know who Dustin Poirier is, which is honestly the hardest thing of anything we're
yeah,
talking about, is
100%.
opening up to show people who you really are and not being afraid to do so, because that's a really hard thing to do. But I feel like I've still never met Dustin. I feel like I kind of know who he is though, and he's
Yeah,
done a good job of showing that, and that's allowed him to branch off and to venture off and start his hot sauce brand, which is something he's extremely passionate about. To shout out Shreveport, Louisiana, all the time, which is where he's from. Like all these different things that he holds near and dear, he opened up and showed the world, and the world got behind him, and that's made him so much more popular as he's rose, and I think that probably gave him more confidence, which has allowed him to fight better as well, which is cool.
yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. I'm thinking too, like, can you do a lot of this? And I mean, sure, some public figures have or do, but like, um, is there a good example of somebody that's done a lot of this without having the athletic resume or the actual wins behind their name, right? Trying to
Yeah.
think of anybody that's been able to pull that off because
Dylan Dennis.
sure, sure. Um, yeah, guys that get notoriety and can create a lot of whirlwinds and even businesses, but don't back it up.
Yeah. I mean, not that he doesn't back it up, just it's just recency bias at this point, but somebody that's also done a really good job of this is Chad Mendez. Chad
Yeah.
Mendez has like six different businesses or some shit, all based around
Yeah.
hunting and the outdoors and everything that he loves. But he used his platform as a fighter
Right.
to help, and then his investments from his contract to dive into things that he's passionate about.
Yeah.
And he's making a really good return off of it. It seems like
Yeah.
all of his brands, like his, I've tried his ready meals. They're
Yeah.
fucking good, dude. They taste great.
Yeah.
And I'm
I
a
mean,
picky ass eater.
and it's again, it's authenticity that shines through, right? Like even like Jorge Masvidal has some alcohol spirits. I don't even know if it's tequila or whiskey or whatever.
I'm not sure.
Um,
I'm
but
betting
he
it's
has
tequila.
that. He has his own fight promotion, right? And like
Yeah.
all of it is just very on brand, and I think that's what shows through more than anything else is the authenticity. And when you chase after a market and it's something that you're genuinely interested, you're more likely going to do a better job at it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And like, so I guess let's think of a couple different like key concepts of building your own brand.
Sure. I mean, nail on the head, authenticity, right? Like
Yeah.
you have to build it off things that you're actually interested in and things that you can. There's a point. I think something that you can genuinely make a difference in, right?
Well,
Like,
so there's a market for everything, and that's what people don't
sure,
realize, right? Like that's what Sean did really well. Where I mean, he was the stoner high school kid. Like that was his vibe. He was the gamer stoner kid. That was what he put out into the world. And as he grew and as he matured and as he grew into what he is now, those were the people that stuck with him along the journey, right? Another good one that people like, oh, video games, ha ha ha. Demetrius Johnson's making a fuck ton of money off of being a professional gamer, along with being one of the top three MMA athletes of all time. But
yeah,
he's built a he's self-admitted super nerd,
hmm,
and he's let people see that he's been authentic and people backed him, and that turned into a massive market for him where
yeah,
he's got great partnerships with big streamers, with big gaming teams, that's bringing in extra revenue on top. Henry Cejudo's a good example. He's
yeah,
triple C. He's the golden boy. He always is around USA Wrestling. He's always around all of these different ventures that are authentic to him. He's the before he was Triple C, his nickname was actually the All American. He tries to be around American wrestling as much as he can to
yeah.
try to be as authentic as possible.
When I think about like Cowboy Cerrone too, right? Like he always lived his life large, right? And like that's uh that's what he's doing now. He's doing movies, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
he's acting, and like that's on brand for who he was as a fighter, on brand for his personality too. Um, so authenticity and really marrying that up with like personal values, um, I think is hard. I think another aspect of building your own brand is identifying a mission and creating like a plan to go after that market,
yeah,
right? Like you can't just say, "Hey, this is what I kind of want to do." Let's like when we did building a fighter, when we're doing building a fighter, it's not like just on a whim one day we're like, well, let's see if we can write some online programs for people.
fuck it, let's make an LLC.
Right? There's a lot of planning that went into here's going to be our target audience. Here's what we really think we can provide for people, both for athletes and for providers in the space, right?
Yeah,
So it's having a plan to execute, not just following your kind of whims.
yeah. And I mean, along those lines, it's with the plan, make the plan match everybody around, like what you're trying to go after, too, right? So many
Yeah,
people, they make a plan, but they don't know who they're also trying to bring to them. They don't know who they're
yeah,
targeting with that plan. Like, one of the key concepts we always talk about is authenticity,
yeah,
which is amazing. But you also have to know who you're trying to reach if you are making a plan. That's
yeah,
the two sides of it. So once you know who you are, you got to know who you're going to connect with or who you're attempting to connect with.
yeah,
And that comes down to honestly just for in MMA, just being yourself and seeing who sticks around. And once you understand who you appeal to, again, something I think O'Malley did really well of, who once he understood who he appealed to, he played into it all the time.
yeah,
Colby Covington's a great example. I mean, it's a character. It's a straight
yeah,
up character, but he knows who is going to buy his fights. He knows
yeah,
who, if Colby Covington's on a pay per view, he knows the type of person who is going to buy that pay per view, whether it's
yeah.
to see him lose or to see him win. And that's been a fantastic thing for him to grow his personal brand and again make more money off of his investment.
Well, I think of it too in terms of like our venture, right? Um, like it's insane about I would say north of like 70% of the customers that I brought in have been people that I meet at jujitsu or people that I
Hmm.
meet while I'm working out. It's not like, hey, I'm gonna go after this online marketing campaign and hopefully some people click on it, right? It's literally after jujitsu rolls, it's like, hey man, what do you do? Blah blah blah. I'm a strength and conditioning coach. Oh man, I need some of that. Like, and then the ball keeps rolling. Hey man, I think I can actually help you out with some of these programs. Like,
Hmm.
and then you get a customer that way. I can't tell you how many more clients I've gotten from that genuine connection, and like even like a whole rugby team. You know, I played rugby for 2 years, and like I became their strength coach essentially. It's not because I'm good at my job, which that's a added benefit, right? But that's because of the relationships I was able to create. So I think that sense, if we're going to branch into another key, is building a sense of community, right? Is another thing that you're talking about, like Sean O'Malley's doing with I identify with this group of people and they identify with me. It's like what speaks to you, right? Like recently, a brand that I've been following that I think does a phenomenal job on that is Fuel Hunt, right?
Yep. Yeah.
Like their community building is really key, as in like every Monday I know that they're going to send out a motivational Monday thing. Every um, Friday I get a text message and it's like from the owners and heartfelt. Not heartfelt seems soft, but like genuine.
Because you are fucking soft.
That's fair too. But like genuine challenges that they're going through, right? It's like
Yeah.
this is how we're approaching this challenge, and there's like constant text message, constant emails, and like everybody gets those, and like it's annoying at times, right? For brands that you're really not that into or
Yeah.
whatever. It's like, but like some like actually have some substance to them, and like I can appreciate that, you know?
Well, some connect with you, like you said,
Yeah,
like that connects with you. I have so many brands that I'll get something like that and I'll just immediately mark spam. I'm like, I
yeah,
don't need to
right.
hear about these people's story. That's not about me. But a few, like one of the ones I remembered is I would get some REI stuff, and it was while I was living in Portland. I was trying to get into this stuff, and I'd get like a newsletter from REI, and I'm like, oh, I really like this. And they took the time to write down, like, there was different articles about different hikes. It was something I was interested in, and they
Yeah,
did a really good job of capturing me
yeah,
into that, like using like catchy. I mean, one of the things I was actually just talking about with our head coach Santino, who's big. He's got multiple different businesses, very into marketing right now, and we were talking about like newsletters are making a fucking comeback. Like
yeah. Honestly, yeah,
if you're a fighter, just like everybody's got OnlyFans, everybody's got fucking like their own personal like subscriptions on their Instagrams, or they got subscriptions on their Twitters or some shit like that. Just put out a fucking newsletter. Like, just get some emails, collect emails from there, and then you know who your market is
yeah.
immediately. The hardest part about marketing, from what I've found, is actually just getting the people into the door. Once you know who you're going after, it's relatively easy because most people
Well,
that go after your product are similar.
yeah, and I think it's almost like training in a sense too. Is like once you get somebody in the door, it's not that hard to get them on a good workout,
Right.
right? But like I have to get you to read that email instead of clicking spam and deleting it right away. I have to get you to engage with whatever I lead with, and that's when you can go into different like language or different writing type of strategies. But um, again, I think it's really unique to the brand and who you are. Like I know when I get a Fuel Hunt email, it's going to be a lot of like motivational statements with some spacing between them and like easy to read, quickly digestible, and like to the point. So I'm not sitting there for 3 minutes hunting through a newsletter of like a 2,000 word article, right?
Right.
I'm blasting it, I'm going, and then um, another like small again. The marketing world I think can be really interesting and branding if it's done right. And you know it's like that old saying, right? It's like porn, right? You don't know what it is until you see it,
Right.
right? Like, oh, they did that marketing shit well, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can just see that. It's hard, really hard to describe, right? You know it when you see it. That's the quote I'm looking for.
I was letting you get there.
Thanks bud.
No, 100%. It's looking at good marketing and looking at somebody I say it with authenticity. Like, you
Yeah,
know it when you see it. It's an easy thing to see, and
yeah,
you know when it's done well. And then there's some people that it's fake, and that's okay
yeah.
as long as they stick to that script, like a Colby, like Aljamain recently trying to play the villain type card.
Yeah,
Like, that's fake, but whatever. They're trying to build something. They're trying
Yeah.
to find themselves in the sport, and that's okay because they're at least attempting it. They're not just fighting and walking away every time. Like one that a dude that I think connects with more people than people realize is Sean Strickland, who had just fought
yeah.
yesterday. Like, dude is a wild card, but that
Right.
is a demographic of our sport. Like
Yep.
people like Sean like fighting, and
Yep.
he again he knows that that is something that's just him, and he's fine being himself. And because he's himself, and there's a built-in demographic for him being himself, he's skyrocketed to the top of the popularity meters because everybody wants to hear him talk on a microphone. They want to
Yep.
hear what crazy shit is Sean going to say today, and that's his own brand, and that's a fucking
Yep.
great brand because he's been able to maximize on it.
Well, and you know what's wild too is everybody like we're talking about this branding and marketing and how can get complex, and how many factors that go into it. But like whenever you post on social media, you're literally doing it, right? Like Instagram, like Twitter, they're like self-branding platforms,
Right.
right? And it's like you can look at it as in like I'm trying to get the word out to the community, I'm kind of doing this, I'm going to do that. There's an undeniable aspect of like I'm cultivating this image that I want to put out into the world,
Mm-hmm.
right? And there's just good and bad ways to do that, or consistent and not consistent ways to do that. And I think it's kind of interesting watching people go through that, or even like all the people that you follow, right? Like, and I find myself doing this. There's like people's pages and stories that I look forward to opening, not because they're necessarily like good at marketing or branding, but because I know it's going to be authentic content, right?
Right.
It's like
I know it's
some,
them. I feel
yeah,
closer to
something they
them when I
mean,
see it.
right? And then I know like other people, and again, they probably don't show up that much because I don't seek them out. Is like, they're just going to be promoting that thing that or trying to sell something,
Or
or
that's fake as fuck. Like
yeah, right.
everybody talks about all the time when they talk. Then there's different things. Like people can make your social media look like the ideal life, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think it's so easy to pick up on when somebody's bullshitting. I don't know if I'm the only one that thinks it's relatively easy to pick up when somebody's bullshitting, but
Yeah.
like if you're doing like a smile in the sun and you have like some sort of quote underneath it,
Hmm.
I know that's probably just fake. You wanted to show
Yeah.
people you're at that location, right? Like that's not
Yeah.
you actually being happy.
Well, I think that's an interesting like query. Like the way that I kind of separate that on social media is like who's making posts and content for people that they don't know versus who's making posts and content for people that they know, and
Right.
then thirdly, who's making posts and content for themselves,
Yeah.
right? Like I like to think whenever I post something, it's for my own benefit, right? It's like I think I did a cool thing and I want to see it, or I want to put this thing together, and then hopefully that can inspire the people around me. Um, but like I think the third category of that, like you're making content for people that you've never met or know before, right? Then I think that can get where it gets into the gray area, which I know is like all the bigger channels and everything, but it's an interesting gray area because like you see people put on the like professional mask or the face.
Well, and that's something that the longer you can put off the professional face, I think the better you get.
Yeah.
Like a good example is Rogan,
Yeah.
where he's always himself, no matter what. And
Mm-hmm.
he's different versions of himself, but he's always been Joe. And
Yeah.
people connect with that because they know that he's not lying to them. Like
Yeah.
if he was going to lie to them, he would have done it 2000 episodes ago. He's always been relatively genuine and people can connect with that.
Yeah. No, how can we relate that back to building your brand as a fighter or
No,
having to
it's the
be an
same thing.
entrepreneur?
It's like
Yeah.
build around like if you're a gritty fighter, if you are somebody that likes to go out there and wrestle, like one of my fighters, Hunter Azure, he loves to. He's on the Tough 31 season. He loves to go out there and wrestle. He's a grinder. He's going to break you down. Use that type of archetype. Use that type of I guess character that you are in the cage. That's you outside of the cage. That's how you act innately as a human. If typically you're going to fight the way you act. Like
Yeah.
if you're a showboaty person, you're going to showboat in the cage. If you're a blue collar, like I'm just going to grind this fucker out, you're going to show that in the cage. So just trying to live that and then just doing some of the extra stuff that you're not doing. Like social media is hard for me. I
Yeah.
like doing my job, and it is hard for me. And luckily, we have Sid Pierce that's taken over our building a fighter social medias. That's why it's been way better recently.
So let's talk about how much better Sid is at both of it. But you saying social media is hard for you, and then you compare that to how hard social media is for
Yeah,
me, is another
exactly.
fucking level.
But a job is a job, and part of being a professional fighter has to be the social
Yeah,
media aspect.
yeah,
So all it is documenting. It's not even trying to create content, it's just documenting what you
yeah,
already do. Like something Hunter loves is he loves like using his smoker. He loves using his Traeger. So he's
yeah,
started to just like his content is around his family. He's a big family man. It's around
yeah.
fighting. It's around training, and it's around like smoking meat. Like
Well,
he
which
always
again,
puts up barbecue Sundays.
yeah, again, authenticity, right? Like,
And that's gotten him so many more followers just being authentic to him. Like he's gone up. Granted, the show started, but I think he's gone up something like 500 followers in the last like 2 weeks.
yeah, right,
And it's just because he's a obviously been on the show, but b dedicated to just showing, not even making content, just showing what he does, like being more open with the people that want to watch him fight.
yeah. It's interesting. That's interesting.
But that's all I got to say about that.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. And like, I don't know, not to mention like not to discredit other athletes in other sports. Like obviously there's a lot of brand building and other things being done by other professional athletes, but it's out of a place of like want or um, I guess like more financial means. It's not out of a place of I'm going to do this to make a living as well. You know.
Right. Like MMA is the only professional sport, top tier professional sport that is more
There's some,
similar to Olympic sports
yeah,
than it is to actual like NFL.
yeah,
And the reason being is this exact structure. You have to the only way to make a lot of money as an Olympic athlete is to have a brand built around you. Like you have to be really fucking good, but people also have to know who you are. You have to be Michael
true,
Phelps. You have to be Jordan Burroughs.
yeah,
Like you have to be Lolo Jones. Like I know those names. I don't even know what fucking races Michael Phelps swam. But I
yeah.
knew he was the best swimmer in the world and he built a brand around himself.
Yep. Yeah, and
And
that's
M-
interesting too.
MMA is the same. No other sports have to be like that because there is such a high contract rate that you're getting
Yeah,
paid. You don't have to worry about that.
yeah. And I think like even despite all the other great Olympic wrestlers that there's been, I think Jordan Burroughs might be the first person that's been able to be exclusively a full-time wrestler, right? And we're talking
Yeah.
about how he's not exclusively a full-time wrestler, but how he's parlayed that into other brands, other deals, other promotional aspects to get him paid, right?
Right. He, he,
Um,
he gets to wrestle and then he gets to take photos and do marketing campaigns
and I
and
think a
do
lot of
meet and greets.
yeah, yeah, a lot of other wrestlers specifically have had to do other grinds or coach or find other ways to make finances work too for them. And like Jordan Burroughs is what well into his 30s now,
Yeah. Yeah.
but no, I think that's a wrap on why being a professional fighter is not exclusively enough. You have to be a professional businessman as a fighter.
Yeah. Yeah. The too long didn't read is just it's okay to market yourself. Don't think that you're a sellout.
Yep, yep.
But if you guys liked what we're talking about or want to get in touch with us at all of our information is going to be in the show notes. And that's going to be emails and Instagrams. We also have programs available at buildingafighter.com. We have preset programs, we have membership options, we also have custom programs for you built specifically for your needs. So all that's available at buildingafighter.com. It's Dr. Austin Shane,
Alex Friedman.
and we are out.